The first thing he noticed was the light. It was soft, warm, and almost alive, moving like liquid across the walls. His eyelids felt heavy, but when they finally opened, he could see shapes shifting in the glow. The air smelled strange, sweet, metallic, and fresh at the same time. His head throbbed with a sharp pain, and every muscle in his body screamed as if he had been asleep for years instead of hours. He tried to move, but his limbs were stiff, reluctant to obey. Panic rose in his chest like a storm, and he turned his head slowly, blinking against the shimmering light. That's when he saw them. Two figures sat quietly beside him, still as statues yet radiating a calm energy that made his heart beat unevenly. The taller one, undoubtedly the adult, had skin that seemed liquid under the light, flowing and reflecting colors he had never seen before. A crown-like formation rested upon her head, made of what looked like crystals fused with flesh, glowing faintly. Her eyes, enormous and luminous, were fixed on him, not with menace but with deep curiosity, as if she were trying to see inside his mind. Beside her, a smaller figure mimicked her posture. A girl, perhaps 10 human years old, mirrored her mother's silver sheen, softer, smoother, more fragile in appearance. Her eyes were wide and unblinking, sparkling with a strange innocence. She tilted her head slightly, observing him, and for a moment he felt as though she could read his every thought. Fear surged again. He tried to sit up fully, only to feel the strange surface beneath him shift slightly, supporting him like a gentle hand. The world felt alive, breathing with him. He swallowed hard and whispered, "Where am I?" His voice sounded foreign in this place, as if even his words didn't belong here. The queen's eyes softened. She raised a delicate hand, and without moving her lips, a gentle hum filled his mind. It wasn't a voice like his own. It was deeper, resonant, and comforting, vibrating with warmth. He felt it wash over his pain, and his fear melted slightly. The girl reached forward, placing a small, cool hand against his forehead. A warmth spread through him, dulling the ache in his skull, easing the tension in his limbs. He could feel their intentions, though no words had been spoken. They hadn't brought him here to harm him. They were guiding him, helping him understand something beyond his comprehension. But even as relief settled, confusion clawed at him. Why him? Out of all the humans, why was he lying here, in the presence of beings so powerful, so majestic? Slowly, he took in more details. The room around them wasn't made of walls or ceilings. It felt organic, alive, pulsing in harmony with the light. Curved structures rose and fell like hills, veins of glowing energy running through them like rivers. Strange plants swayed without wind, their translucent leaves reflecting colors that didn't exist in his world. Every sound, even his own heartbeat, echoed softly against the living architecture, making him aware of how fragile and small he truly was. The girl, Lyra, finally smiled, a faint, cautious smile that lit her entire face. The queen inclined her head slightly, a gesture of patience, and he realized that whatever this place was, it had rules he didn't yet understand. But more than that, he sensed trust forming between them, fragile yet undeniable. He wanted to speak, to ask questions, but words failed him. Instead, he focused on their presence, their calm, their silence that spoke louder than any human language could. He felt a strange emotion rise inside him, a mix of awe, fear, and a growing hope. Somehow, despite everything, he understood he had been chosen not by chance, but because they believed he could witness, perhaps even understand, something extraordinary. As he lay back, letting his mind absorb the reality around him, he realized one thing. He had crossed into a world far beyond Earth, a world where humans were insignificant, yet capable of astonishing growth. And somewhere deep inside, he felt the tiniest spark of courage, a whisper telling him that maybe, just maybe, he could rise to meet the challenge of being here. He lay there for a while, trying to make sense of what had happened. Every part of his body ached, and every thought felt heavy. The glow around him pulsed softly, almost like it was breathing with him. The queen and Lyra remained still, watching him, as though waiting for him to understand something beyond words. Finally, he tried to sit up. His limbs protested, muscles stiff from unknown days or hours of rest. The queen extended her hand again, and this time he noticed that her touch wasn't just warm. It felt alive, like a gentle current running through him, calming the storm of fear inside. He hesitated, then reached for her hand. The moment their fingers touched, a rush of understanding passed through him, not spoken, not written, but pure feeling. She was patient. She meant no harm. She wanted him to know that. Lyra, the little girl, leaned closer. Her small hand pressed against his chest, and for an instant he felt a wave of calm unlike anything he had ever known. She giggled softly, a delicate sound like wind chimes caught in sunlight. The noise made him smile despite the fear still clinging to his chest. Her presence was comforting, innocent, and strangely familiar, even in a place so alien. He looked into their eyes and felt exposed. The queen's gaze wasn't harsh or judging. It was searching, trying to see the truth of him, the essence beneath his human skin. It made him nervous, but he also sensed a strange honor. Somehow he realized that she could sense his doubts, his fears, even his hopes. What are you?" he finally whispered, his voice breaking. The queen tilted her head, her crown glinting under the soft light. Then, without speaking aloud, a soundless vibration filled his mind. It wasn't words, but emotions, pictures, and thoughts flowing together. He saw flashes of her life, the city around them, the strange energy that kept everything alive. He understood without comprehension. It was overwhelming yet comforting. Lyra tugged at his sleeve, and suddenly he was smiling again. She held out her small hand, and in it was a tiny floating orb of light. He reached out, and as he touched it, it expanded, wrapping him in warmth. Memories, feelings, and a sense of connection surged through him. He realized that they weren't just observing him, they were trying to teach him something, to share a part of their world without words. He tried to speak again, but his voice failed. Instead, he nodded slowly, understanding what they wanted: trust. Trust in a world he didn't yet comprehend, trust in beings he could barely believe existed, trust in himself to respond the right way. The queen's lips moved slightly, shaping words, but he didn't hear them. Instead, a feeling entered his chest, a message of calm and reassurance. "You are safe here. You are chosen. You are more than you think." Tears welled in his eyes, partly from fear, partly from awe. This wasn't just a new world, it was a revelation. He had been plucked from his ordinary life, thrown into the impossible, yet treated with care, respect, and an invitation to understand something far greater than himself. Lyra giggled again, running a small hand along the glowing surface beneath them. She glanced up at him and whispered a soundless word into his mind that made his chest tighten. "Friend." Somehow, he understood. She didn't know human language fully, but the meaning was clear. She trusted him, she accepted him, and she wanted him to feel at home. He sat back slowly, letting the warmth, the light, and the presence of the queen and her daughter settle around him. Fear was still there, yes, but it was tempered with hope and wonder. Somehow, in this alien chamber filled with living light, he felt a connection that transcended language, species, and even reality itself. For the first time since he had woken, he allowed himself to believe something extraordinary, that maybe, in this place, he wasn't just a lost human. Maybe he could belong. And as the glowing light pulsed gently around them, he realized that the queen and Lyra weren't just beside him. They were guiding him, inviting him to see the universe through their eyes. And in that invitation, he felt the tiniest spark of courage, a whisper in his soul saying, "You are ready." The days, or what he assumed were days, passed in a blur. Time felt different here, flowing softly, almost like it didn't exist at all. The queen rarely spoke aloud, yet he felt her presence everywhere, guiding him, teaching him in ways words could never capture. Lyra became his companion, her bright eyes full of curiosity and mischief, making him laugh despite the strangeness of his surroundings. He learned slowly, like a child discovering the world anew. The glowing structures around them weren't made of stone or metal, they were alive. Veins of light ran through the walls, pulsing gently with energy, and when he touched them, a warmth spread through his fingertips, as if the building itself recognized him. Lyra giggled every time he pressed a hand to the glowing surface, and soon he found himself laughing too, forgetting fear for a moment. The queen observed quietly, but he could feel her thoughts brushing against his mind. She wasn't intruding, she was sharing knowledge. Through her presence he glimpsed flashes of her history, a civilization older than Earth, civilizations rising and falling around them, and the immense responsibility she carried as a leader. There was a sadness there, too, a weight he couldn't fully understand but which made him want to be helpful, to be worthy of their trust. Lyra taught him in ways he couldn't have imagined. She held his hand as they floated along pathways of energy, pointing at living gardens where plants hummed, glowing with colors that shifted like emotions. Each plant seemed to respond to them, bending gently as if listening. When he touched one, it vibrated softly, sending waves of understanding into his mind. He felt connected, not just to the garden but to the queen and Lyra, as though their bond was expanding with every pulse of light. One evening, as the soft glow of the chamber dimmed to a gentle twilight, the queen finally spoke aloud. Her voice was a melody, each note resonating inside him, carrying meaning beyond the words themselves. "You are learning quickly, Seeker," she said, her crystal-like eyes reflecting his own in a way that made him shiver. "You see beyond fear. That is rare for your kind." He tried to speak, but no words came. Instead, he nodded, feeling a mix of pride and humility. Pride that he was trusted, and humility because he realized how small he was in this world, yet how much potential humans could hold if given the chance to understand. Lyra leaned against him, her small hand brushing his arm. "You understand," she whispered, though her voice was faint, almost like a vibration in his chest. He realized she didn't need language. Their connection transcended words. Emotions, intentions, and curiosity were enough to communicate, and it felt deeper than anything he had known on Earth. But the more he learned, the more he sensed a subtle tension beneath the calm. The queen's eyes often flickered toward the edges of the chamber, alert, cautious. Something wasn't entirely safe. He asked quietly, "Are we alone here?" The queen's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile but an acknowledgement. She didn't answer in words. Instead, she extended her hand to him, letting him feel the quiet strength in her touch. He understood. Danger might exist beyond these walls, but here in this space there was trust. There was connection. There was hope. That night, as he lay on the living surface, the gentle pulse of light soothing his weary body, he realized something profound. He wasn't just a visitor. He wasn't just a human lost in an alien world. Through patience, courage, and openness, he was becoming part of something larger, a connection that transcended species, language, and the ordinary limits of human experience. He closed his eyes and felt Lyra's hand in his, the queen's presence surrounding them, and the world seemed to breathe in harmony with him. For the first time, he didn't feel small. He felt chosen, capable, and alive in a way he never had on Earth. And deep inside, a quiet flame of determination sparked. He would not squander this chance. He would rise to meet whatever challenge this strange and beautiful world placed before him. The next morning, the queen led him through a corridor that shimmered with light, the walls alive with soft pulses, almost like a heartbeat. Lyra skipped ahead, her tiny form glowing faintly in the ambient energy. The human followed cautiously, his heart racing. He had grown accustomed to the strange beauty of this world, yet he still felt like a fragile leaf in a storm whenever the queen's eyes fell on him. At the end of the corridor, a large chamber opened before him. Floating in midair were dozens of spheres, each glowing in different colors, swirling gently. Some were bright, warm, others dim and cold. The queen's presence pressed softly against his mind, sending a vibration he instinctively understood. This is a test, a trial to see who you truly are. He swallowed hard. The chambers themselves seemed alive, watching him, assessing him, almost daring him to fail. Lyra hovered close to his side, gripping his arm. "You can do it," she whispered. Her voice, though small, carried a strength that bolstered him, a reminder that he wasn't alone. The first sphere floated toward him. Its color was a deep, somber blue, and as it approached, he felt a heavy weight pressing against his chest. Images of his past rose up, his mistakes, his regrets, the people he had failed. He stumbled backward, nearly overwhelmed, but the Queen's hand brushed his shoulder in silent encouragement. He steadied himself, taking a deep breath, and reached out. The sphere touched his palm, and the weight didn't crush him, it passed through him, and he felt it transform. The sadness didn't vanish, but it became something he could understand, a part of himself he could accept. The next spheres came faster: fear, anger, doubt. Each one brought a torrent of emotions, memories, and flashes of his deepest insecurities. He faltered, almost collapsing under their pressure. Lyra pressed her tiny hand into his back, whispering encouragement, and he felt strength return to him. This was more than a test of courage. It was a test of empathy, of endurance, of the ability to see himself honestly. Finally, a golden sphere drifted forward, warmer than the rest. As his hand touched it, waves of hope washed through him. He saw visions of a future not yet written, possibilities, choices, and connections that spanned worlds. The sphere pulsed with energy, as if acknowledging his courage and resilience. It wasn't a reward. It was a responsibility. He understood now that being part of this world meant embracing not just the beauty, but the weight of what came with it. The chamber went still and the spheres dissipated, leaving only a faint glow in the air. He stood trembling but upright, his mind clearer, his heart steadier. Lyra hugged him, her small arms wrapping around him with warmth and pride. "You did it," she whispered. The Queen's gaze softened, her luminous eyes meeting his. "You have learned more than most humans ever could," she said, her voice a resonance that vibrated through him. "You see beyond your limits. That is why you were chosen." He looked around the chamber, taking in the calm after the storm of emotions. He realized something extraordinary. He had faced his fears, accepted his past, and tapped into a strength he didn't know he had. More than that, he had done it with compassion, guided by understanding rather than brute force. Lyra tugged at his hand and led him to the chamber's edge. Outside, the alien world stretched endlessly, glowing forests, floating islands, and rivers of light reflecting the sky. The Queen joined them, silent and imposing, yet somehow gentle. He realized that this challenge had been more than a personal test. It had been a lesson in connection. The strength of an individual was nothing without empathy, courage, and trust. As he gazed at the alien horizon, he felt something new stirring in him, a quiet determination, a burning curiosity, and a profound respect for the beings who had guided him. He wasn't just surviving here, he was beginning to belong. And for the first time, he truly understood the meaning of being chosen, not for power or skill, but for the ability to see the universe with an open heart, to rise to challenges, and to honor the trust of those who believed in him. The calm of the glowing world didn't last long. As he and the Queen walked through the corridors of living light, a sudden vibration shook the floor beneath them. The walls pulsed rapidly, and a low, harsh hum echoed through the air, sending shivers down his spine. Lyra clutched her mother's side, eyes wide with fear, and he felt a cold knot of dread tighten in his chest. A deep, alien voice reverberated across the chamber. He didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear: intrusion, danger, immediate attack. He realized with a jolt that whatever creatures were approaching did not see him as a human with thoughts or emotions. To them, he was either a tool or an obstacle. The Queen's posture stiffened, her radiant crown pulsing brighter as she extended a hand toward him. He felt the surge of energy before he fully understood it, a protective shield forming around them, humming with warmth and power. Lyra hid behind her mother, trembling, but her small fingers brushed his arm. "Stay close," she whispered, the fear in her voice matched by a trust he had never known. Shadows flickered along the walls as the intruders entered. Their forms were jagged and dark, moving with terrifying precision. He wanted to run, to hide, yet the Queen's presence grounded him. Somehow he understood that fear alone would not save them. Courage, empathy, and focus, the qualities he had been learning, would be the key. The first intruder lunged toward Lyra. Instinctively, he stepped forward. A warmth, unfamiliar but exhilarating, spread through his hands as he reached for it. The energy he had felt during the trials earlier surged, wrapping around him like liquid light. When he moved, the intruder recoiled as if struck not by force but by something far more powerful, a human spirit, guided by understanding and courage. The Queen's voice, or rather her presence, flowed into his mind. You can protect them. You must. He focused on Lyra, on the bond they had formed and the spheres of emotion he had faced during his trial. The love, hope, and empathy he had learned to wield now became a shield stronger than any weapon. The intruders hissed and retreated, confused and disoriented by the energy he emitted. Lyra's small hand found his again, squeezing tightly. I knew you could do it, she whispered, her words trembling with relief and admiration. Her trust was a spark that fueled him further, a reminder that even a human could make a difference in a universe so vast and alien. The intruders did not vanish, but they paused at the edge of the chamber, seemingly hesitant to approach further. The Queen's energy flared, calm yet commanding, signaling that they were not welcome here. He realized then the depth of what they had taught him. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it, guided by compassion and clarity. When the danger subsided, the silence that followed felt heavier than the battle itself. The corridors were still, the glow of the walls dimming slightly as if catching their breath. He looked down at Lyra, her face glowing faintly with admiration and relief. He had protected her. He had protected the Queen. He had survived, and more than that, he had proven that even a human, small and fragile, could impact this world in ways neither of them might have expected. The Queen's luminous eyes met his, and for a moment no words were necessary. The trust, pride, and acknowledgement flowed clearly between them. He felt a surge of belonging, a bond forged not in comfort but in challenge, in facing danger side by side. That night, as he lay on the living surface once more, Lyra curled beside him, and the Queen's presence hummed softly around them. The events of the day had changed him. He was no longer just a visitor. He had tasted fear, wielded courage, and discovered the power of trust and connection. The universe he had thought so vast and indifferent now felt intimate, alive, and full of possibility, because even a human could rise to meet it. For the first time, he understood something profound. Strength alone wasn't enough. Compassion, courage, and understanding could bend the impossible, even in a world that seemed beyond comprehension. And with that understanding came a determination that burned quietly inside him, promising that whatever challenges awaited next, he would face them, not alone, but with the Queen and Lyra by his side. The days after the threat were quiet, but not peaceful. He noticed subtle shifts in the world around him, the glow of the walls softer, the pulse of the energy gentler, as if the chamber itself had exhaled after the confrontation. Yet for him, something had changed inside. The fear that had once made his heart pound in his chest had been replaced by a deep awareness. Courage was not just about facing danger. It was about understanding, about choosing to act with compassion even when everything in him screamed to flee. Lyra stayed close, her hand always brushing against his as they moved through the glowing corridors. The Queen's presence, though calm, pressed against his mind more insistently now, not in warning but in recognition. He felt it in every glance, every subtle pulse of light, a quiet acknowledgement that he had grown, that he had passed the unspoken tests of this alien world. That evening, the Queen led him to a high balcony overlooking a vast expanse of living light. Below, crystalline rivers curved through forests that shimmered in hues he had no names for, and islands floated effortlessly in the air, each glowing with an inner energy. Lyra's laughter, light and pure, echoed as she ran along the balcony, tracing patterns in the air that left glowing trails of light behind her. The Queen approached him, her tall form radiant yet serene. She extended her hand and he took it, feeling the familiar warmth and quiet power flow through him. "You have seen more than fear. You have embraced understanding," she said, her voice vibrating gently in his mind. "Few humans can do this. You are remarkable." He felt an unfamiliar emotion swell inside him, pride tempered by humility. To be acknowledged by being so ancient and powerful was overwhelming, yet deeply comforting. Lyra came to his side, tilting her head up at him. Her eyes shone, a mirror of her mother's light. "You are like us now," she whispered softly. "Not the same, but like us." He didn't fully understand her words, but their meaning resonated in his soul. He was human, yes, but the walls between species, between worlds, had been bridged by empathy, courage, and trust. He realized that belonging didn't mean being the same. It meant being understood and being willing to see others for who they truly were. The queen guided him through a quiet ceremony of sorts. She touched his chest with her palm, and he felt a surge of energy unlike anything before. It wasn't power for battle, it was recognition, a gift, a bond linking him to their world in a way that transcended words. Lyra pressed her forehead to his arm, and he felt her trust and acceptance flood through him, warming his entire being. For the first time since waking in this alien place, he allowed himself to exhale fully. The weight of uncertainty, fear, and isolation lifted slightly, replaced by a sense of purpose. He understood that he had been chosen not for his strength, nor his skill, but for the human capacity to care, to rise above instinct, to connect with beings so different yet so similar in their desire for understanding. Night fell, though it was not like night on Earth. The sky pulsed with light, stars reflected in rivers below, and soft glows traced the edges of distant floating islands. He lay on the living surface once more, Lyra curled against him, and the queen's presence enveloping them like a protective canopy. As he stared into the shifting lights, he realized something profound. Acceptance was not passive. It was earned, nurtured, and shared. And he had been given that gift, accepted into a world far beyond anything he had imagined, trusted to carry forward the understanding he had gained. In that quiet, glowing expanse, he made a promise to himself. He would honor this trust. He would protect Lyra, respect the queen, and carry the lessons of this world wherever he went. And deep inside, a warmth spread through him, a calm certainty that, though the universe was vast and often dangerous, a human heart could make a difference. For the first time, he felt truly seen, truly part of something greater, and the simple, quiet joy of belonging filled him more than he could ever have imagined. The morning light in the alien world was unlike anything he had known on Earth. It shimmered softly, flowing like liquid over the floating islands, casting gentle reflections on the crystalline rivers below. He stood at the edge of the chamber, looking out at the vast expanse of beauty that had become his home. Yet beneath the wonder, a bittersweet weight pressed on him. Today he would leave. Lyra ran ahead, her small form glowing as she traced patterns in the air with her hands. When she reached him, she hugged him tightly, her tiny arms clinging as if she could somehow hold him here forever. "Will you come back?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He felt a lump rise in his throat. He wanted to promise, but he also knew that returning to Earth might be impossible. The queen approached quietly, her towering form regal and calm. She extended a hand, touching his forehead lightly. A surge of warmth and light passed through him, a final gift, a bond unbreakable, linking him to their world even if he left. "Go," her voice resonated in his mind, clear and powerful. "Carry what you have learned and remember, courage, understanding, and compassion can shape even the vastest universe." He nodded, swallowing hard. His heart ached with the thought of leaving Lyra and the queen behind, but he knew their gift was not possession, it was trust. They had shown him that even a human, small and fragile, could rise to challenges and leave a mark on a world far beyond his own. The portal shimmered before him, a swirling column of light and energy. He took one last look at the alien horizon, the glowing forests, the floating islands, the rivers of living light. He felt a wave of gratitude, awe, and love. This world had changed him, taught him what humanity could be when fear was faced with courage and understanding. Lyra tugged gently at his hand. "You will remember us," she said softly, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. He nodded. "I will," he whispered. "Always." The queen's gaze lingered on him, serene yet filled with unspoken pride. He could feel her thoughts pressing gently against his mind, a quiet message that stayed with him even as he stepped toward the portal. You are part of us now, not by blood but by spirit. You are home in more ways than one. He stepped into the portal, and the alien world dissolved into a cascade of light. The sensation was dizzying, yet exhilarating, like being pulled apart and put back together in a new shape. He felt the lingering warmth of the Queen's gift, the trust of Lyra's hand, and the pulse of the living world beneath his feet. When he opened his eyes, he was back on Earth. The sky was familiar, dull in comparison to the glowing alien heavens, and the air smelled of rain and soil. Yet inside him, something had shifted irreversibly. He carried the lessons of that world in every heartbeat, every breath, courage tempered with compassion, strength guided by empathy, and the quiet, unshakable belief that even a single human could change the universe. He looked around at the ordinary streets, the humans bustling past without knowing, without seeing. He smiled faintly, a mixture of sorrow and hope. They didn't understand yet, but they could. He could show them, little by little, the potential of humanity when hearts were open and spirits unafraid. At night, when he closed his eyes, he could still see Lyra's smile, the Queen's gentle light, and the rivers of living energy. They were gone from sight, yet their presence remained, a constant reminder that the universe was not as small or indifferent as it seemed. And in that quiet knowledge, he felt a surge of purpose. His life had changed, not because he had been taken to an alien world, but because he had been shown what humans could become: courageous, empathetic, and capable of bridging even the impossible divides. As he stood beneath the stars of Earth, he whispered softly to himself, a vow and a promise: I will honor them. I will honor what I have learned, and I will carry their light wherever I go. The wind shifted, gentle and approving, as if carrying his words across the universe. Somewhere far beyond his eyes and mind, the Queen and Lyra watched, proud and certain that even a human could rise, and rise indeed he had. And with that, he stepped forward, ready to meet the world with a heart that had seen the infinite and returned stronger than ever.